Back in March, you all may remember that there was a horrific shooting at a place called the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a private Christian school. It's affiliated with the Presbyterian Church in America. And basically, a shooter who was armed with, I believe, 2 assault style weapons and a handgun murdered 3 children and 3 adults at the school. Terrible, terrible tragedy. Now, after that tragedy, one of the things that was pointed out is that the same Republicans who always say, thoughts and prayers in response to a mass shooting, that really felt hollow here because this is a private Christian school. They have plenty of prayers going on there. They talk about God all the time in the school. So thoughts and prayers were not lacking at this institution. In fact, I think they had a prayer session, whatever they wanted to call it, in a ceremony at the beginning of their school day when this tragedy happened. So what have Tennessee lawmakers done since the shooting? Because there was an impetus to get gun safety measures passed in the state. And the answer is exactly what you think would happen in a state controlled by Republicans. Nothing happened when it came to gun safety. Those legislators were focused on passing a law banning drag shows in the name of child safety, but they wouldn't do anything to prevent gun violence in the name of child safety. In fact, those same lawmakers actually proposed a bill to lower the age to legally carry a handgun in public from 21 to 18. You may also recall that Tennessee made national news this year because 2 black lawmakers and 1 white woman, all 3 of whom were Democrats, actually staged a protest. While a lot of people in Tennessee were protesting and urging those lawmakers, the Republicans, to do something, 3 Democratic lawmakers basically joined the protest and wanted change, and they were shouting for change from the floor of the House. And then the almost all white GOP lawmakers they expelled the 2 black lawmakers from the state legislature, but not the white woman. That was because they were protesting for gun safety measures. So the reason I bring all this up is because there was this article this week in the New York Times. It's a beautiful article. It's worth reading. It's really well done. The Covenant parents aren't going to keep quiet on guns. And what this article is talking about is saying, look, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, where did the shooting happen? It didn't happen at an LGBTQ nightclub. It didn't happen at a public school where the heathens are at. This happened at a private Christian school, and the people affected are largely the sort of white evangelicals who tell you thoughts and prayers instead of let's have gun safety, right? And so this article was saying, well, these parents were directly affected. I don't think any of the parents in the article were directly impacted by the shooting, but their kids went to the school. Like, their kids did not die. That's not who was in the focus of this article. But obviously, their kids attended the school. They were deeply affected, personally affected by what happened. And in this story, those parents are saying, listen, we used to be where you are at, white Republican lawmakers, but we are now asking you for some sensible gun reform measures. And you're hearing this from us, not crazy liberals, but from us. And so that was what the article was about, saying these Covenant parents also want this change, and they're not going to keep quiet about this. And some of the stuff in the article was kind of sad because you all already know where this is going. One of the parents, her name is Mary Joyce. This is what they said about her. Miss Joyce and other Covenant parents felt they stood a better chance than anyone at cutting through the divisions on gun control. Among them were former Republican aides, gun owners, lifelong conservatives who could afford to spend days at the legislature. So yeah, I mean, that's fair. These are parents who would normally be on the other side of the fight, but now it affected them. And because of that, and they make no qualms about that, they basically say in the article and in private, like, listen, we didn't really care when it happened to other people, but it happened to us. So we care now. And if we care now, maybe some of these lawmakers who don't care will also care now. And again, they did not. They didn't care at all. And you know why that happened. Like, they thought being conservative Christian Republicans with a history of putting guns over people would grant them some kind of power that everyone else didn't have. Lawmakers would see this is not a liberal issue. This isn't about liberals trying to take away constitutional rights. They would understand that basic safety measures were in the best interest of everybody, including gun owners and Republican families across the state. But that's the sort of thinking you only believe if you are fed a steady stream of conservative BS in your media diet. Like, Republican lawmakers, I know this, you know this. These parents did not know this. Republican lawmakers don't give a damn about what the Constitution says. They're not going to compromise on weapons because their whole identity is wrapped up in the belief that having the ability to murder your enemies at any time with the biggest, most dangerous, most potent weapons available is somehow foundational to our country. And any effort to moderate that is like a slippery slope to what, I don't know, just say the name Soros 5 times and there's your answer. And these parents did not know that. They thought these Republicans would actually listen. And then they learned the hard way that that's not how the game works. According to the article, these parents told their stories, their horror stories about what their kids dealt with, the trauma they now live with. And they called for really basic measures that would have prevented the shooter who had mental health issues from legally purchasing all those firearms. And the lawmakers just flat out ignored them. It didn't matter that one of the parents in the article was a Southern Baptist Convention leader, a former one, and also a former executive director of the state's Republican Party who owned guns, or that they were making arguments in the name of being pro-life. None of that mattered. It didn't matter that they argued that another GOP proposal was going to let gun owners take handguns onto school campuses. And these protesters said that's a horrible idea because it'll further traumatize their kids. And these Republicans are making that same argument. That didn't matter either. Basically, Republican lawmakers ignored them. They said one thing to their face and then did nothing on the floor. They did nothing of significance. They just don't believe mass shootings are enough of a problem that they should do anything to try and prevent them. I mean, these people always think guns are never the problem. It's always something else. It's always mental health. It's always video games. It's a lack of good parenting. It's always sin. And this is what, check out what one of the mothers said here. It was demoralizing, some of the mothers said, to be talked down to see lawmakers who had sympathized with their pain in private still vote against them in public, to be told that it was too soon for such serious changes, or that any change at all would threaten the Second Amendment. Did you know, the parents asked one another, that it was like this? How did I not know? Like, yeah, we know they're like this. You know why? Because when gay people and liberals and feminists, every group identifies as who votes blue, when they made the exact same arguments, they were ignored repeatedly by these same lawmakers. And by the way, by a bunch of Democratic lawmakers as well, who get money from the NRA and other groups like that. So yeah, it is demoralizing to be talked down to, but also, why didn't you care when those same lawmakers were talking down to the people making the same case you are in the same way? Why didn't that bother you then? And like, why are you surprised it's happening to you too? It's a very much like a the leopard party ate my face too, says lady who voted for leopard party, however that line goes. Like, yeah, how did I not know? It's because you must only watch conservative media where they feed you bullshit. Like, come on. One of the other things these parents said here in this article, ultimately the legislature sent Mr. Lee a few policy bills, but none that the Covenant parents had prioritized passed. When is it going to be the right group of people that gets affected for someone to listen? Adding, I thought we were close enough to their children. Yeah, when's it going to be the right group of people? The implication there is that so far the victims of mass shootings have always been the wrong group of people. It's like Hispanic kids in Uvalde, or, you know, people in other states, or gay people, or trans people. Like, and again, look, I want to be clear. I'm not mad at these parents who are now trying to do the right thing, because I think one of the things you have to allow if you want people to change their minds, if they do change their minds and they do end up doing the right thing, you can't hold a grudge on what their past used to be forever, right? Like, you got to give them the leeway to do the right thing if you actually want them to change. And so, good for these parents for finally seeing the light. I applaud them for what they are doing. But also, it is kind of infuriating that they're like, what? But I'm a white woman. Why aren't these Republicans listening to me? Like, if you had some empathy years ago, maybe you would have realized the people talking weren't the problem. It's the lawmakers who refused to do anything. And the other part that I really wanted an answer to that this article did not offer is, what are these parents going to do in the future? Who are they going to vote for state legislature and for president next year? Because if they're still voting Republican, then clearly they haven't learned a damn thing. And then, by the way, it's fair game to criticize them for not learning anything. So nothing in the article suggested that these people are going to stop voting Republican because that party is beholden to gun lobbyists. They might support political challengers willing to compromise on guns, but they're not openly saying they'll vote for a Democrat who will actually take action. And if they're not going to make that argument, I don't know why the lawmakers would listen to them. Who cares what these people protest if they're still going to vote for you? Nothing's going to change then. Like, I don't know. Nothing in the article suggests that's going to change. By the way, 40% of white evangelicals, roughly 40% of white evangelicals, own a gun, and that's higher than any other religious group. But it never crosses their mind that believing God will protect them should not correlate with the need for more weapons. I just want to point that out. I mean, I wish these people understood. I wish it bothered them more that these lawmakers didn't listen to any other group in the past. And yeah, they're not listening to them now, and that's kind of funny and kind of sad. But also, these lawmakers haven't changed. And if you keep voting them into power, they're not going to change. They have no incentive to change. How privileged and spoiled must some of these parents be to believe lawmakers who ignored other people are going to listen to them? Like, why do they think they would be taken seriously? Because they're the right color and the right religion and in the right socioeconomic class. Like, I don't know. Maybe they think, I don't know. The alternative to what they are doing is to just vote for sensible people who will actually pass sensible legislation. But Tennessee, I should say, it's a gerrymandered state, like so many red states. It's designed to keep Republicans in power. But that only works because conservative Christians keep voting for them. If these people actually cared about this issue as much as they do, there's a way to get these lawmakers to change their mind. And it's not by telling these Republicans their sob stories and hoping they empathize. It's by saying, okay, I'm going to tell my church and everyone in my church absolutely not to vote for you. And we're going to vote for the Democrat, even though we disagree with them on a lot of things. Guns are such a big issue to us that we're willing to let our other issues slide. If they did that, if pastors who care about this issue had the courage to say that, because you know the IRS doesn't care if they endorse candidates from the pulpit. And if all these pastors said, fine, we're going to endorse Democrats and we're going to tell every white evangelical we know to vote for Democrats, that might get something done. As far as I can tell from this New York Times article, none of these parents have the courage to do that. Certainly their pastors do not have the courage to do that. And so I don't know why they expect anything to change. So, like, I appreciate that they're trying to do something, but they're not really doing the thing that would make a difference. And without that sort of honest introspection and a realization that the people they helped elect are the problem here, nothing is going to change.